Hello and welcome back to the Bright Founders Talk podcast from Temi. Temi is an international software development company that designs, builds and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. My name is Chris and today's guest is someone who's well versed in the world of media and publishing. Ingo Ruebe, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Almost
Good.
Christmas.
Yeah, hopefully not too much more work to do this year. Like we always do, we've got some quick fire questions. The first one, what is your favorite productivity hack when working from home?
Driving to work. That's actually what works best. So I use home office just for really rare opportunities where I really have to dig into some document, do some research on something, or have to produce a PowerPoint or something like that. That works quite well at home because there's not so many distractions. If you really are under pressure, or if I'm really under pressure, but if I'm not under pressure and try to work from home, there's so many distractions, starting with a TV and lots of things I have to do in the house that it's so if I'm not under pressure and want to be productive, I just go to work.
What is something new you would like to learn outside of work?
So next up for me would be flying helicopter. This is actually what I think this is on my bucket list for 20 years now. But I think it's almost time to start that now. So this is something that really fascinates me, which I really want to do. I'm not into normal aircrafts. I don't want to learn that, but helicopters are just so cool. I want to learn that.
Wow, okay, brilliant. Okay, so maybe could you use it to get to work in the future or maybe.
If you find a parking spot for this thing.
And the final one, what did you want to be growing up?
So when I was in university, I think in the first week I decided to become a professor and stay in university forever because I liked it so much. And then turned out I am not a professor. So this was the plan for many years.
Nice. Okay, yeah. So it's quite a nice lifestyle from my experience. Not sure from the other side, but yeah, being a student feels like, being on campus is quite relaxing. First question I want to ask you, as someone who is from Germany, I thought it was quite interesting. What's it like starting a company in Germany? Like, is it easy to get funding? Is it easy to find certain employees, or is there a shortage of software engineers or whatever? Tell me a little bit about your experience working or growing businesses or startups in Germany.
So I think if you do something interesting, then people will find you and people will want to work for you. It's just that many people are not interested in doing some boring stuff. But if you exciting stuff and you have a team which is running in the same direction, then people just naturally want to be part of that. And then it's also not such a big problem to find people. Of course, it's always a problem to find the right people which actually fit into the team and all that. That is sometimes problematic. But finding people is not an issue. Founding a company in Germany is pretty bureaucratic, but you can manage. It's possible. I did this before, and it just takes some time, but it works. If you found a company in Germany, you will also find that there's tons of regulations around you, which may, in the operational life, make your life a little bit more complicated than maybe in other countries. But on the other side, you have a lot of really good workforce, especially when you're in Berlin, because many people from all over the world want to move to Berlin and work here and work on interesting stuff. So workforce-wise, it's quite good to be here, I would say. Also, the city is not too expensive, so that people need crazy salaries like they would do in San Francisco or something. So it's not that kind of thing. I'm pretty happy that we're here, actually. So not a bad location.
Just because I saw that from your experience, you lived or you started, or you worked in some companies in Munich. When you're working in the area that you're working, is it an easier sell to get someone to come to Berlin rather than Munich or other parts of Germany?
Yeah, definitely. So Berlin sells itself because there's so many young people here. It's very international. You don't have to learn German, which is also important for many people because they have other things on their mind. And if you speak some kind of English, then you're good to go here. And that's pretty nice. And not only at work, but also in the restaurant and also in the shops. And so everyone here speaks quite decent English, and that helps. And you have so many newbies in the city that you don't feel like a newbie probably if you come here, because there's others like you, and it's probably pretty easy to get along with new friends and stuff like that. So it seems quite attractive because it's relatively cheap, it's relatively startup-y, and it's a very mixed crowd of people. So this is what young people want.
Yeah, I quite like it. I've been twice, and yeah, I do like it a lot. Lots of parks, very green. Now, going back to your studies, so you studied computer science, and that was sort of a little while ago, right? And I'm just curious because I imagine you must have been ahead of the curve. Like, if you told people, I'm going to study something related to computers, were people sort of skeptical then? Like, do something more traditional, or did you have a lot of support about moving forward in that area?
Really care about what the people said. It was like, I think my mom gave me a computer when I was 12, and that was the point where I decided to study computer science, and that never changed since then. So it was, for me, it was a straightforward thing, because I think when you study something, you should really like it, and you should, because if you like doing your things, you don't notice that you work, and then it's not an effort. You just want to know, you just want to read, you just want to learn. That makes it very much easier to study, actually. And probably at that time it was probably a better deal to go into, I don't know, medicine or dental medicine. I think they're paid very good. But I never thought about that, because then I would have to start from the beginning, and I would go into something which is not particularly interesting for me. Fiddling around in other people's mouths, don't know. That's really that's really my future. And computer science turned out to be a lot of fun while studying, and so I didn't really care about that. The only maybe interesting thing at that time, when I finished my studies, you remember I wanted to be a professor. Next thing is that you actually do a PhD, and I thought, hey, maybe the PhD I could do in New York, because I like New York very much. So I got some letters from my professors that I'm good. And I just walked into the door at New York University and said, hey, can I be like a PhD student here? I don't really have money. How about the tuition fees? And they said, okay, we look at your papers. And then they came back with, actually, we want you, and you don't have to pay any tuition fees. You can come for free. You can do everything for free here. And then I said, wow, this is great. Now I just need some money for an apartment. So there's an organization in Germany organizing that for people. So I applied there and said, tuition fees are already for free. Just need the apartment, and my parents are going to supply some pocket money for me. And then they came back after a month or so and said, no, they are not going to finance my apartment, because computer science doesn't have any future. Should rather go something like philosophical. Right. That was pretty interesting. That was the time. So I didn't become a New Yorker. I didn't become a doctor. I didn't become a professor. It's all their fault.
Yeah. So yeah, always blame the government. So in terms of like this attitude you have in terms of being quite strong-minded and just doing what you want, is that something if we think about your whole career, is that something you've always taken into business as well?
Strong-minded, you mean? Yeah, I think that, yeah, so I always try to do things which I like, actually, and not to do something because of the money, or doing something to become rich or something. And I think those things are, well, you probably lose interest after a while. So I try to have fun as much as I can during work hours, actually, and I think it's also necessary that you have some kind of attitude, and that you want to change something, or do something good, or do something great, or and then that's important for me, and I think it's also important for others, and I hope that I can convey that to the people who work here with me, that they also want to be like that and work in an environment which is like that.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a good idea to follow what you enjoy. And so going back to just a little bit after your studies, your first couple of jobs, well, not say you jumped around a little bit, but it seems like you tried different things: customer care officer, operations director, project director for a large newspaper publisher. Were you curious about trying different things, trying to find your passion? Was it sort of you were trying to gain some experience that you thought you could use later on?
It was more like, was very much opportunity driven. So after I finished my studies and it turned out that I'm not moving to New York, some people came up and said, hey, we're founding a company, computer science stuff, whatever network. And do you want to join? And you get a share and something. Then I said, yeah, why not? Because it looked quite interesting, and it was around medical informatics, and medical informatics is what I did a lot during my studies. And it was a nice project in a hospital which was connected to that and stuff. And then I started this company. Basically, the others then vanished after a while because they were probably not doing what they actually wanted. So then it was my company. Then we got venture capital in, and then we made the company big, like, I don't know, 55 people. And then in the end, we sold it in 2000. That was actually my first job was already like a CEO of a company. You learn a lot there, and that was also pretty successful. So that was where I went, and then I sold this company, and then I thought also it's time to leave the company actually, because then everything changed. It was now part of a big other company called Fresenius with I don't know, 10,000 employees or something. We were just 50 doing something very special, and I could hand this off actually at that point. And after that, I somehow landed in publishing, and then I actually stayed in publishing for quite a while, for over a decade actually, because it's turned out to be really, really interesting, because it was an interesting time. It was the time where publishing went from print to digital actually. And you could make an impact, right? You could do things which transform a whole industry. Because I worked for the two industry leaders, at least here in Europe, and I had the responsibility of very much turning these things into digital companies, and that was a fantastic thing to do.
Do you feel that, just on that regard of publishing, has it taken another step now? Has it gone from, so it's been digitalized, and then has it taken another jump over the last decade, sorry?
No, I think it's now continuous learning and scrapping things that were not so great, and focusing on other things in the publishing sector. And I think we are about the next big thing is about to happen to publishing companies, because now AI comes. And AI can do a lot of things that journalism can also do. And journalism is much easier and much faster and much cheaper if you use AI. So it is a two-sided thing, right? So you can become faster, but you can also somehow be kicked out of the market by AI. It would be possible to produce a newspaper which is on the point and directed to the right target group automatically, like 25 times a day, now with basically zero cost. And that's an interesting challenge for publishers now. So I'm out of publishing now, but so totally in another space now. But I see that that this revolution which comes with AI is going to tackle the publishing industry big time.
Well, just touching on that stage of your life, as well as maybe your studies, was there any skill or idea that you picked up during that time that you use today?
So I think at different stages in different companies, you learn different things. So when you do startup, like my first company, you first learn how to manage people, how to actually read an Excel sheet, how to make something profitable and stuff like that, not wasting your money, not going bankrupt, all these things which are really important. But you don't learn politics, because you basically make your own politics. And then when you go into a big company where there's lots of decision makers, or not even decision makers, but people who can slow you down and people who start working against you, you learn a lot of very interesting social skills. Because I think the most important thing is to find out why people are working against you, because normally they don't even work against you, they work for their goals. And if you don't understand their goals, you don't understand why they're working that way, and you think they're working against you. So really finding out the reasons behind the behavior of people is something that you can only learn in a huge company like Axel Springer or Burda, all with more than 10,000 people in there, and with a position of which includes a lot of responsibility, then you start learning a lot about not only the internal structures, how this thing works, and how you can actually maneuver in it, but also around people. And people are, well, behaving strangely, but but mostly they do that for a reason. And finding out reasons and putting myself on other people's chairs and saying, why? How would I react now is something that is to be learned in big companies.
I think it's very intriguing because in terms of behavior, I want to just sort of move into your experience working in another country, Greece, or working in projects or starting companies. How did you find the difference between cultures and how they work, or was it an easy transition or challenging?
I think if you don't leave Europe, then then the culture is pretty similar, actually. So of course they speak another language, and maybe they eat a different type of food, and maybe they have different attitudes about paying tax. That's minor things. Normally, I think Europeans are Europeans very much, and also as we have the EU, and if you talk about bureaucracy and all this stuff, it's pretty much the same always. So it doesn't really make a big difference. It's in the stuff that we did in Greece, actually it was more bureaucratic than it would have been in Germany at that point, but it's maybe that changed the other way around now. But no, Europe is Europe. I think it becomes completely different if you move to China or India or even the Middle East. Then you probably see a lot of cultural differences, but not so much.
Okay, fair enough. Well, touching on a company that you were working with a little bit closer, that's also linked to the current one you're working with, Kilt Bolt Labs. So how did that come about? What were you involved in, and sort of what did they do?
So Bolt Labs is the company which I'm running right now. So what you see behind me is Bolt Labs. So that's a company that was founded like 6 years ago, I think. It was so it started at the time I was working as a CTO for Boda, the publishing house. And as a CTO, one of the things that you do is that you make technology scouting. So I was flying around the world, and I came about South by Southwest and Texas.
Wow.
And there the Ethereum team was presenting what they actually had done. And then I noticed, well, for the first time in depth, what blockchain is and how it could actually change basically everything. And then I started reading about it, learning about it, and then I went to the group board and said, well, we say we are a tech and media company. There's a tech coming up which is going to change everything. It's going to be important for us as well. I think we should do something in blockchain. And then they said, okay, explain blockchain. And then I started explaining blockchain. And then they said, well, that might be interesting, but this is really far off the things that we normally do. And then they came up with a decision. If I say that this is important, they want to be in it, but they don't want to have it inside the company. And because inside the company, if you just make a department out of it, it somehow gets destroyed after a while, because people have high expectations, and then they cut the funding, or it is successful, and then everyone wants to have a seat on the board of that, and then you get into the politics again, and you can't work, and not in a startup-like manner, which you need for new technology. So very wise people there. And then they said, okay, let's do something. So let's found a company. You, Ingo, get the majority in it if you want. You can be the CEO. You just report like quarterly to us and tell us what you do. We also make a bank account full of money for you, so that you don't have to run after VCs and stuff like that. Just find us a new CTO. Then I needed 1 year to find a new CTO. And then we founded the company together. And this is Bolt Labs, a company which is doing blockchain stuff.
So just to get a better understanding, is Kilt a part of Bolt Labs, or is it sort of working?
Kilt is Kilt is a decentralized network, and Kilt has been developed, but it's a technology, and this technology has been implemented by Bolt Labs. So Bolt Labs is the company behind Bolt Labs, but it's not owning Kilt anymore. So because it's a decentralized network, so we let loose 2 years ago. For the first 4 years, it was our product, our thing. We had 100% of it, and then we gave it out to the community. And now Kilt is a community project, and Bot Labs is doing things which are different things, and not only different things, but so we still work a lot on Kilt because we feel very much obliged to bring Kilt forward. So we do a lot of marketing, and we do a lot of development for the Kilt network, but we don't own it anymore.
Okay, well, just to ask a little bit more about that, the idea of giving it away, let's say, because I saw that you were initiated with another company called Thunder. They had also an open source system about sharing collaborations or harnessing a culture of collaborating and sharing within the publishing industry. So is this something that comes from you? Because it seems like maybe you've done this a couple of times, or you have experience of this, like sort of opening up the tech to everybody. And why is that a good idea?
So yeah, Thunder is a part of Drupal. Actually, Drupal is a content management system which is also used by publishers very much. And at Border, Thunder is a part of Border actually. So at Border, when I was the CTO there, we had the idea that we should actually have a distribution of Drupal which is catered 100% for online publications. And then, as we said, okay, we do that anyway. And if we do it anyway, then it might be a good idea to open it up and make it open source so that anyone else can also use it for free, but that also other people start contributing to that. Because if you have like only one publisher which uses the system, then they have 100% of the burden of actually developing new functionality and putting in AI today and stuff like that. But if you have 10 publishers working with the same system and they all own it in some way or form, and it's free for them to use, then it's a very the hurdle for beginning with it is very small because you don't have to pay for it. But later on, you can start engaging in it when you think, okay, this is really valuable for us as a company. Then you maybe have one or two developers which are actually further developing the thing. And of course, it is expected from you then that you also make this stuff available for all the other publishers. And then we start benefiting from that. And that actually worked quite well. And I think that is the concept of open source. Open source, we all use open source a lot, right? Probably used the browser from time to time. That's open source software. And they are successful because there's communities behind them which actually improve these things and make the software better. It's also much safer. Because when you have a closed system, there's no bug-free software. Software is always faulty. And if you have something where where you think you shouldn't be able to break in, there is a way to break into it. In closed source, there's only one company behind taking care of that. So first they need to find out about the security leak, then they have to fix it, and then they have to bring it to everyone. This is so much easier in open source because in open source, everyone looks at the software, everyone who's using it, everyone who's, especially if they start making money with it, they're very much interested in having the thing safe. So they set up things like computer emergency response teams, so-called CERTs. And for Drupal, for example, we have that. So there was never, at least in my time, there was never a leak that could be exploited because the CERTs were finding that beforehand from white hat hackers, and we could actually encounter it as a community action to fix these issues, and somebody is going to do it. And if somebody does it, they talk to everyone else and they make sure that everyone else rolled out a fix for the security leak before it becomes general knowledge. So it is much safer. It is, in the end, much more creative because you have many more people working on the same thing, and it starts to being a collaborative action. And what people and companies have to understand is that they don't compete with their infrastructure; they compete with their products. And software is merely infrastructure. And you wouldn't say, I as a publishing house, I make my own power plant because with my power, it's going to be much better. You use the infrastructure that everyone else has, and they don't really care because you don't compete with other publishing houses. Same thing with content management system. You can all use the same content management system. You don't compete, you don't excel on that. What you excel on is the content that you produce, what you actually see. And this is where you should concentrate so you can work together. Then it's cheaper and more collaborative for everyone.
So that's the same idea with Bolt Labs and not giving away, but sharing. Kilt, it will be developed by everyone, and then you can all appreciate. Talking a little bit more about Bolt Labs, it talks about sort of scaling your digital identity or helping other companies scale their digital identity. So my first question is, why do you think it's important for a company to have a digital identity? Why is that so important?
I think it's important for people, first of all, to have a digital identity because, well, most of them already have one, but the one that we have is not so good, actually. So when you look at identity, this is something that we had even before the digital life. It's nothing digital. So we all have these things like faces, which we call identifiers in the identity space, because they identify you. You look totally different than I do, which is good because that is totally decentralized, and this is 100% controlled by the individual. So I can't control your face, and I didn't make your face, and also no government, no company, no blockchain, no one gave you your face, right? You made it yourself. It's yours. You decide when to show it and when not. This is very, very valuable because it gives a lot of sovereignty to you. But that's not identity already. Identity grows with so-called verifiable credentials. And that is, for example, your fishing license, your passport, your driver's license, things that come from different sources, like government, like the fishing club, like library, or your company gives you maybe a card where you can open the door with. All these things are adding to your identity, and normally they also have a picture of your face on it, or your name or your signature on it, which are identifiers. So those credentials are linked to your identifiers, so they are very much personalized. And I can lose my passport, and no one else can use my passport because the picture of the face just wouldn't match. So that makes it very, very safe, and it's also a very decentralized thing because the issuer of this credential is never a part of an identity transaction. Think of you going to a bar and you have to prove that you're 21 to get into the bar. So maybe you use your driver's license for that, which is government issue. Will the government find out that you were in the bar? Not at all, because the guy at the door there doesn't call the government and say, is this credential valid? He just checks, is the picture valid? Does it look like a credential which is issued by someone I trust? And which is the government in that case, and then say, yeah, obviously you're 21, you can come in. And so it doesn't have a phone home button, right? It's totally between you and the guy at the bar, and that gives you a lot of privacy. So this is fantastic what we have in the physical world, and in the digital world, this got broken totally because now we have Facebook and Google as or digital identities. And those are centralized. So everything, all the credentials, all your identifiers are not generated by you, not held by you, not controlled by you. They're all controlled by 2 or 3 companies in the world. And this produces a lot of power on their side, but it also makes the population lose a lot of their sovereignty. And because that could be switched off, right? If Facebook doesn't like you anymore, they could just switch off your account. And if you have linked your WhatsApp and whatnot to that, then also these things don't work anymore. So you're really it's dangerous for you. Well, not only we, but also a lot of other people in the so-called DIF, the Decentralized Identity Foundation, started thinking about this issue and started to look for a way how we can re-establish the luxury, the good things that we had in the physical world, also for the digital world. Mm-hmm. And this was a very, very long and scientific process where we took part, but not only small companies, it was also Microsoft, IBM were also involved, American government put people in. So it was really a huge thing with more than 350 companies at the table, pretty hard to manage. And what came out of that was 2 digital standards like HTTP. You know this standard, right? It's from the W3C, the World Wide Web Consortium. Now we have a standard for digital identity as well. It's called DIDs and verifiable credentials. And what Kilt is basically an implementation of those. So what you can do with that, if you use Kilt, you can generate your decentralized identity, and then you have an identifier which you generated, which you own, like your face and your fingerprint, which is which is digital and not linked to any Google or whatnot. And then you can go to issuers, like maybe your fishing club already uses Kilt. Then they can issue a credential to you, which is then sitting in your pocket, not in theirs. And you can use this credential without the fishing club responding to that, and without any Google and any Facebook in the middle. And this is currently becoming an international standard and is being recognized by big companies and also by governments. So this is a great field of growth, and it's again something where you can actually use technology to make the world a little bit of a better place, or at least repair the things that technology broke before. And this is what we are working on, and this is a lot of fun.
Bolt Labs using Kilt is trying to target individuals in this case. It will be something that individuals can use, or is it more for companies that, again, would filter down to individuals using their service?
So we're not really targeting individuals because there's always a question of everything boils down to money. So who's going to earn money? The money is earned by the issuers, right? The issuer, because the issuer, if you lose your driver's license and get a new one, you will pay like $50 or something for the work. This $50, this is the interesting piece. It comes from you and it goes to the issuer. So the issuer is interested in building a digital platform, and they already have customers, so they are targeting the world, and we are targeting more the issuers. Because that could be universities, that could be governments, that could be big companies, and so on, or even small companies which have something to issue, right? If you have some trust in the real world, you can become an issuer, you can monetize your trust, and this is the target group for those, for Kilt.
Okay, brilliant. Well, just running a little bit of time, but just one question I want to ask you, if you don't mind. It's that if you could shadow any CEO or be a part of any company for 2 weeks just to see what they do and how they work, which company or person would you choose?
Well, there's sometimes big companies I'd like to look into because I don't really understand how they function. And so it would definitely be a big company where I would like to sit for 2 weeks. If we limit it to 2 weeks, probably not forever. Sometimes I really don't understand how Microsoft works. So Microsoft would be an interesting thing because Microsoft for me is sometimes on the good side and sometimes on the bad side. And I don't understand fully their decision-making process there. And that would be very insightful.
Brilliant. Well, I'll let you get back to work and finishing all your bits and bobs before Christmas. But I appreciate your time and thanks for talking with us.
Thank you.